The theories and ideas shared in this episode are based on publicly available information and are for the purpose of creative thought and entertainment. The topics we discuss are our own opinions and purely speculative. Our aim is to explore claims made by prominent individuals, verify them best as we can, and discuss their potential reality. We're just two regular dudes who are fascinated by this phenomena. Enjoy the conversation. All right, so our third astronaut is Deke Slayton. So Deke Slayton was born on March 1st, 1924. He was also one of the original Mercury 7 astronauts like Gordon Cooper. Um, Due to a medical condition, he was grounded from spaceflight for many years, but later flew on the Apollo Soyuz test project in 1975. I hope I said that right. But we'll show the spelling of this mission as well. Slayton also served as NASA's first chief of the astronaut office and director of flight crew operations. So, hell of a resume.
Yeah, and where I grew up in Lake City, there was a highway named after Deke Slayton, so I immediately recognized the name. I didn't put it together that it was this specific astronaut, but that's really cool.
Yeah, no, that is cool. Especially whenever we're doing a video over here and then you're just thinking, wait, I'm pretty sure that name, I've seen that somewhere. Where was that?
Yeah, I've been on that highway many times. It's kind of funny.
Hmm.
So, all right, let's check out what he
Well,
has to. Oh, but sorry, go ahead.
let's see what this street name has to say.
All right, yeah, yeah, that's how I know. All right, let's check it out.
Deke Slayton and about what he saw on a test pilot flight in 1952.
As I closed on this thing, well, it looked like a weather balloon, and that's what I presumed it was. And I had plenty of gas and time, so I decided I'd just come back around and make a pass on it. And I got around where I should have been coming back on this thing. All of a sudden, it didn't look like a balloon anymore. It looked like a saucer sitting on edge, about a 45-degree angle. I didn't have any gun camera film on board, unfortunately, or I'd have shot some pictures of it. And about that time, I guess whatever it was, for whatever reason, just took off climbing at about a 45-degree angle and just accelerated and disappeared. And I obviously couldn't follow it with an old piston engine fighter. So I turned around and went home.
All right, so that was a short one, but I liked how he gave us the actual trajectory and how fast it kind of pulled away from him.
Yeah, that's cool. It's also kind of funny, the whole weather balloon thing.
Yes,
It
yeah, right, right.
it's always that's kind of the Pentagon's explanation for all these things, and all those debunkers out there. They love the weather balloon. It's always a weather balloon. It is really interesting how all these Navy pilots and uh, not just Navy but former military pilots and I guess NASA pilots too always seem to confuse these weather balloons with UFOs.
Yeah, I'm wondering,
So,
if Roswell started that trend where it's like, okay,
yeah.
anything unexplained is labeled weather balloon from here on out?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's funny. That's funny.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that story was
Um.
short and sweet to the point, so I like that one.
Hmm. The why didn't he have gun cam
Yeah,
like a gun cam ready? It's like,
that's
oh man, of course you didn't. Of course you didn't. It's like
yeah. I know many a Bigfoot sighting has been missed
I was
because
just about to say that, dude.
because
I was just about to say that. Oh,
the camera
I
wasn't
couldn't get my
ready.
phone out of my
Right.
pocket fast enough.
Right. I was so scared I didn't, I have this phone in my pocket, but I didn't think to snap a picture, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So that's funny.
Yeah, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. But yeah, another interesting story. I mean, a guy who should be trained in a lot of this, uh, these types of situations. Like he said that he did think it was a weather balloon at first, but he knew how to distinguish what's a weather balloon and what's not.
Yes.
And then he was like, no, that's not a weather balloon, and that thing is moving, which weather balloons are not going to be doing,
Right.
and zooming off faster than him. Again, weather balloon will not do that.
Yes.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. And
Yeah.
the term saucer. So
Right. Right. These guys are from an older era too, so they weren't hip on this whole UAP, that's kind of terminology that we have nowadays too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
All right.
Oh man.
Well, I think we got one more video left. So,
Yep, one more. Let's get to number 4.
all right.
Astronaut number 4.
So our last astronaut video that we have for y'all is going to be about Edgar Mitchell. And so just to give you some history on Edgar, he was an astronaut, engineer, and pilot born on September 17th, 1930. He was the lunar module pilot for Apollo 14 in 1971 and became the 6th person to walk on the moon. Mitchell was known for his interest in consciousness and extraterrestrial life, founding the Institute of Noetic Sciences. He passed away in February 4th of 2016. All right, so let's check out what Mr. Mitchell has to say.
Let's check it out.
There seems to have been, over the last 50 years at least, and more, a great deal of secrecy surrounding the so-called UFO event. It's a very complex subject. We're not dealing with something that's very simple here. If we take well, we have sightings of all sorts. There have been reported thousands and thousands of sightings for 50 years or so. Large numbers of those sightings are indeed misperceiving natural phenomenon in some way. But a large number of them are not misperceiving. They seem to be well-documented events that represent flying craft that do not match anything we have in an earthbound arsenal, which is very short of saying we have validated in the public domain that they are ET craft. We have to rely upon that to get better answers. We have to rely upon people who have been there and interacted, have first-hand data. The only people I know of that claim to have been in that position are former intelligence, military, and government people, and some contractor people, whose official duties in the early days were to investigate this and know about it. Those people were under, at that time, great restrictions and high security clearance that prevented them from telling the general public about it. It would appear that period is long past, but they're still under security restriction, or at least believe they are. There have been ET visitation, there have been crashed craft, there have been material and bodies recovered, and there is some group of people somewhere that may or may not be associated with government at this point, but certainly were at one time, that have this knowledge and have been attempting to conceal this knowledge or not permit it to be widely disseminated.
All right. Man, to be someone that's walked on the moon, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder too, like, why did we stop going? You know, what's the good answer for why we stopped going to the moon? So
Yeah.
perhaps there was some kind of life out there that didn't want us to keep poking around. You know, just
Perhaps.
speculation, but you never know. So
Yeah.
I've heard all sorts of theories of stuff on the dark side of the moon. So, and like our last
Mhm.
video, you know, they said bases and all sorts of stuff. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. That was some really interesting
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. On
Yeah,
Carl Wolf.
yes, Carl Wolf,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But yeah, Harry Reid, I liked what he had to say. Like, you know, he seemed really genuine, and the fact that he's been on the moon too and seen stuff.
Oh, are you talking about Edgar
Or
Mitchell? You
excuse
said
me,
Harry
Edgar,
Reid.
excuse me,
It's all
Harry
good.
Reid, Harry Reid, yeah, Edgar Mitchell. You know, I liked what he had to say. So, and the fact that he's still speaking about things all these years later.
Yeah, and this is a good final clip because the other ones where we may have seen this, or I guess the first clip he was pretty certain that it was footage from crafts that were moving at speeds that the public was not ready to hear about. Um, but this one is the first that he directly is saying we have proof of ET craft,
Yes.
which is extraterrestrial. Just to clarify, that means not of Earth,
Yeah.
so somewhere outside of Earth.
Yeah.
So,
He also said remains, so biologics, as you know, Mr. Grush would like to say. So,
hmm
yeah, I want to know where those are stored and why we haven't seen or heard of those.
right, yeah. I just have a hard time wrapping my mind around like It must be something super serious of why the public cannot know about this. Like there is and that's why I was saying also that these things might actually be involved in our politics or um in our governments in some sort of way, because it just seems so odd that there's um so much resistance to letting people know about this, because it would be like the biggest discovery in mankind
Yes.
that we're not alone in this thing, and that there's things out there that have technology that could help us learn about our universe and become better as like help our society. And it just seems so odd that that would be one why they would want to keep that secret. It's just like, I mean, and you can go down so many rabbit holes of why that is, but it has to be something serious is going on to be lying decade after decade after decade about this. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
If what he's saying is true, and I mean, you guys heard all of these guys, all of these resumes of these people. These are not, random, you know, they're not random citizens. These are people with very credentialed backgrounds that do very high level work for NASA. Like it is not easy to become an astronaut.
No, not one
Not
bit.
everybody becomes an astronaut. I mean, you have to go through so many courses, so many activities, physical activities. I mean, it is insane what you have to do.
Yes.
And you have these people coming out and saying like that there is more going on than the story that you guys are seeing in the newspapers, on the television, and so on.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. It is really cool to hear though that we are starting to get at least where they're disclosing more and more information even in the past couple
Hmm.
years, and that's a big reason why we started this channel too, because all the wealth of information that's starting to come to light.
Yeah, yeah, something's happening. Definitely, and I don't know what it is, and I'm curious, and I'm open minded to what it could be. But it does seem that there's a shift, that some sort of new knowledge is going to be um, provided to publicly, I believe. I don't know if it's going to be willingly or
Yeah.
if it's something that, escapes like in a Snowden situation, you
Yes.
know?
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem like that a shift of some sort is coming where there's going to be information that gets released in some form that is going to change our reality. And that's just my personal perspective. It just seems like there's more and more coming, like people coming forward about this with credentialed backgrounds, with a need to know, if you will, that have high security clearances, that, they're not easy clearances to get. Like there's different, stages of security clearances, but like these are high security clearances that a number of people are coming out. They've been coming out for decades, and this is just more showing that this has been going on for a long time. Like these are clips from the 90s. And
Yeah, and about experiences that happened way before that even. So
mhm.
yeah, that was really
Right.
cool.
Yeah. These stories are all from like the 60s and
Hmm.
50s and 70s even, and it's just like, this has been going on a long time, and it's cool seeing this stuff. Like we're not always going to show like stuff that's going on right now. We're going to kind of pull out some vintage film, pull out some of the old school stuff and just be like, "Hey, do you recognize some of this older stuff like that's kind of coming out today?" And it shows like how all this has just been going on for so long. One other point I wanted to put in here real as well is how Lou Elizondo kind of explains this situation where recently, and we're gonna possibly do some more Lou clips in the future, but um, one of the statements that he has been making lately as an explanation for the technology over the decades is he talks about how the biggest proof that he has is where the technology is found and at what time periods. And he's saying that we're finding materials in the 50s and having data tracking material or tracking crafts in the 50s moving at speeds that are just it's unheard of for that time period. and the material could not have been created at that time period. And some of this material still can't even be replicated with today's technology. And he uses the analogy of you go to King Tut's tomb and you find um, a fully put together 747 or
Mm,
737 aircraft at a time that there's no way that should have existed, you
right.
know?
Yeah.
So that was kind of a long way of saying it, but it's just interesting hearing all this stuff because it's like at that time period, these crafts shouldn't have been able to move at these speeds and, do all these things.
Right. And that's still going on too when you look at the Fravor story,
Hmm.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
he still sticks to it. He's just like, yeah, I, there's nothing that we have or know about that could do that.
Right.
Nothing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. I'd like to know real quick before we move on to closing thoughts on this on the 4 videos combined, but I wonder why is so convinced that it's extraterrestrial. Specifically, so what's interesting about some of the whistleblowers like Grush and Lou, they don't like to use the term extraterrestrial because it defines the specific origin. They like to kind of keep it open of it could be a number of things, but I wonder when some people say extraterrestrial, what specific evidence they have. Like, do they have evidence of the specific star system? Do they have evidence of the biologics, like you mentioned? And but yeah, just kind of a thought that I had when listening.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would think in this last person's case, in Egger's case, that it probably was biologics that he's heard of that would make it seem. But then again, too, the whole string theory, the having multiverses, that probably wasn't as popular when or even spoken about
That's a good point.
brought to light back then. So it was easy just to label things as extraterrestrial. That would be my guess. But yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Is that those theories weren't as well known or well accepted at that
exactly.
time.
Yeah,
So that's a
yeah,
good point.
yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna have some closing thoughts on seeing all 4 of those astronauts' statements. Andrew, were you surprised by any of these statements? Was it kind of something that you were expecting? Were there a few things that you were like, "Whoa, wow, he just said that"? Because you
Not
grew up in that area.
Yeah,
Is
no,
this
not as much as like some of our previous videos. I mean, a couple of those clips I had actually seen before, so
Mm,
some of them were already on my radar. But yeah, the just the fact that you have astronauts, kind of like what we spoke about. You have astronauts bringing forth what they've seen. Credible
right.
people, like you said, that have seen stuff they can't explain. So yeah, that's just that information being brought to light is really cool. And like with that one that we saw with McDivitt, where it was interview after interview, and he still had the same story. So, talked about the same
Hmm.
things. So, what about you?
Right. Um, I was interested that the most like in your face statement of their ETs was by a moonwalker.
Yes,
That was
yes,
interesting
yes.
because to me that has a lot of credibility because I mean, how many people have walked on the moon?
Yeah, exactly. Not very many.
Yeah, and you got one of them saying that, there's evidence of ET life. Again, it's very, very, very difficult to become an astronaut. And not everybody gets to do it. Not everybody is qualified to do it. So, like, again, credibility and context matters whenever you look at the statements and who's making these statements. And to me, that's what makes this subject so interesting.
Yeah, no, for
So,
sure, for sure. And he was also the one who claimed that we have biologics, which is really
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't forget about those biologics,
No, you
Andrew.
can't you
Don't
can't
let
sweep those
anybody forget about
you can't
those.
sweep those under the rug, Ross.
No, no. Yeah, and we'll find out more about those biologics once we get in that skiff with Grush, right?
Yes,
'Cause he
yes.
can't tell us anything more.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have a date set up quite yet, but we're working on it. Working on it.
Yep,
So,
yep.
yeah.
And yeah, yeah, we have this agreement where if you're a subscriber to the Rusty Saucer, you can get in on a skiff too with Grush.
Yeah,
So make sure you hit that subscribe button.
one lucky subscriber will be selected to be in that skiff.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man,
But yeah, no,
it's funny.
mainly it's just really cool to hear, multiple stories from astronauts, describe their experiences. Because you got to
Hmm.
imagine that, they could see some stuff and be like, well, who's going to believe me? Why even talk about this stuff,
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm glad that they shared. I mean, it's cool stuff. And and it's cool too that some of them even admitted that we don't know what it was. It could have been. It doesn't mean that what I saw was extraterrestrial. It doesn't mean what I saw was even um, a spacecraft or uh, whatever. And so respect to them for putting themselves out there, whether they were have a compelling case or kind of just, oh, I just saw something and I don't know what it was.
right. Yeah,
So
agreed. So
yeah.
yeah, I guess if you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you again from Ross and myself. Don't forget to hit subscribe, comment on our videos, share them with friends and family. We really appreciate y'all once again.
Yeah, and for anybody that's watching this as well, if you have if connections, or friends, family, in NASA or related to astronauts, and if you're from Houston or around that area, if you have had like experiences or heard of different people in that related field having experiences, it'd be cool to read those experiences in the comments. So please share those. It would just be cool for us to read and just be like, wow, there's another person, and or maybe we should do a deep dive on this specific person of names listed in the comments.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right, I guess with that, Rusty Saucer out.
Russ Saucer out.